Y'all can fall asleep if you want to. I'm just saying. If you can fall asleep in one of my talks, you're sleepy. Go ahead. God damn it. My name is Chris Raymer. I'm very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And it's right after lunch too, and so I understand all that too. So if you got to get up and go outside, you're perfectly okay. All right. You're going to the bathroom. We know. That's okay. I had some great comments at lunch. God, it's just great that that's probably one of my favorite parts of doing this is I get a chance to visit with so many of y'all and I don't know, get the feedback, just visit with you. I want to make sure I got to get real clear about one thing so some of you guys don't get confused or twisted around it. I think one of the most beautiful things in this fellowship is that there's nothing etched in stone. I think that there's some must. And I think the closer we adhere to what the big book says, the better it's going to be. But all of y'all got a little spin on this. All of y'all got a little different take on fourth step or a fifth step or this, that, and the other. And it's like, as long as you cover the basics, guys, and I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make in Alcoholics Anonymous is not that we don't do a extended third column or that we don't do is that we don't qualify the newcomer when they get here. I won't get off that. I think it's even when they just come out of treatment centers, we assume that they are the real McCoy. When it's the truth, guys, I've seen thousands of people come through treatment and still not understand what they are. Most of the alcoholics that I know end up relapsing around prescription medication. Most of the little dope fiends from hell, the little heroin addicts, relapse around alcohol. If you can talk to them and explain the symptoms of the illness, they're less likely to do that. But unless you sit down and start asking them some point questions, the treatment centers don't want to ask those questions. Can y'all see why? Because they don't. They're not. That's AA stuff. They're going to do that. They don't want to say anything that might make them uncomfortable and make them leave. So they're not going to hold anybody accountable. The truth is, I just think it's important. We got one job to do, and that's help the little newcomer see their truth. And if we can do that, I think we're doing great. I think that's what makes this thing so beautiful. Everybody's got a little individuality to it. We finish a fifth step. An hour later, we're going to do 6 and 7. We knocked that out. We got our list when we did the fifth step. And I got a pretty good list of my 8-step stuff when I was doing my fifth step. It's great for you sponsors that are hearing fifth steps. It kind of helps you stay awake during that process, just writing some notes down. And I have the guys usually the next day. I try not to wait too long between it again because that's where we have a tendency to lose them. I use these little 4x5 index cards. And I get them a little pack with new little guys that I'm working with. You can use a notebook if you want to, but my job in the 8th step is to help them organize this amends process. I owe a lot of money. I've pissed off a lot of people. I've got some stuff I need to clean up. The deal is I got to do this in an organized way, or I'll get overwhelmed. Alcoholics would like to go out and I'd just like to write a check to I owe all this money. The truth of the matter is you're not going to be able to pay all that money right off the bat. Some of you would be, but most of the guys I knew didn't. We had to go do what the book says. You're going to make your first approach, and I'm going to go contact everybody out there that I owe amends to, and I'm first time, and I'm going to work my best deal. All right, I owe Citibank this amount of money. I'm going to call them on the phone. I'm going to find out what's the best deal I can do here. And they might. I only had one credit card company that told me to go jump off a bridge and pay me the money in full. Most of them worked to deal with me. Most of them were absolutely willing to help me out. But I'm going to write this stuff down on a card first. I need to know how many. If you ever have this conversation, it's like this is a new guy, and I was going to say, well, listen, let's figure out who you owe money to. Oh, I owe everybody. Okay, well, let's start writing everybody down here. And it's like, come on, you don't owe everybody. You don't owe me. Well, I know, but besides you, but I owe everybody else. And y'all follow? Well, have we looked at your credit? Well, it sucks. I know it's bad. I didn't ask you if it was bad, asshole. I said, sorry, I got a little quick with it. I was like, come on, answer the question. Have you looked at your credit report? Well, I know No. Good, let's do that. Let's get on this. Let's figure out where we go. If you know where you're going, You follow. If you know what you got to do, then you can figure out a way to make it happen. We get in a cul-de-sac. I did, and just curious, willing to go to any length to stay sober, any lengths to have a spiritual experience. I'm all for that. But my experience around this is if you're having any trouble out there around money or trouble around relationships, I guarantee you I can connect it to financial amends you haven't made and relationship stuff you haven't dealt with. Y'all follow? You clean up the stuff over here, the stuff over here is going to get better. And the only people in this room that are rolling their eyes are the people that haven't done that. It's like tithing. Oh yeah, right, like that's going to work. Yes, it will. Whether you believe it or not, spiritual principle works. If you owe a whole bunch of people money and you're making some money, whose money is that? It's theirs. It ain't yours. Well, I don't want to give them my money. It's not yours. It will be yours someday, and then you can help a lot of people. But it won't be as long as you keep this attitude that what's mine's mine, because it's not. It's just, yeah, we can justify it. The whole purpose of making these amends, the old idea about what goes around comes around. There was an old guy one time in a meeting. He said, "You kick at the universe, it kicks back." So I'm messing with this stuff over here, and I'm wondering why I got crappy job offers. That's all I get. I'm wondering why the girl that would want me was raised by wolves. I don't. You just. It's like you put the stuff out in the universe, and that's what you're going to get back. And it's just an absolute fact. We watch alcoholics all day long feeling sorry for themselves, playing the big victim stuff. And the truth of the matter is, when you start cleaning this stuff up, life's going to change pretty quick. I've seen it too many times. We make the list first. Y'all remind me, if any of y'all are having trouble with this, 8-step stuff has became willing to make amends to the people. Y'all follow? We're going to talk about this. Don P., the guy that I was talking about earlier, he wrote some great letters. One great letter for the Grapevine where he talked about the willingness. I believe that if the minute I become willing to make amends to you as a business partner, and I've screwed you out of some money or treated you poorly, whatever, and I owe you some amends, the minute I become willing to make some amends, everything starts to change. Because I've seen too many cases, as Don talks about in his articles, he was in prison when he was trying to make amends. He couldn't go make face-to-face amends to people, but he became willing to, in his mind, sit down in front of somebody and make amends. And there was some real relief involved in that. I think the God I pray to, I guarantee you, is a merciful God. I guarantee you. And we're not going to sit there and... But you got to become willing to do it. And then we got to go... at the first opportunity, go clean that crap up. Y'all got to do me a favor, because I'll run out of time here and it'll be 30 minutes. But I got. Y'all put your hand up. Make an oath right here. Raise your hand. Everybody, I promise not to make any amends until I talk to somebody about it first. Amen. Y'all. Come on, guys. Y'all got to be careful how you do this. And this is the beauty of a sponsor relationship. This is the beauty of our wonderful fellowship right here. A lot of you guys have had experience of stuff, and I don't have experience with the same stuff. And I can go talk to you, and we can figure this out. What's the best way I could clean this up? Y'all follow? And the only thing worse than making amends once is making it twice. And you step on yourself out there, I guarantee you're going to have to make it twice. And you don't want to do that. And so... you sit there and you bounce that stuff off. And it's harder with some of us old mossbacks in here that got a few years under our belt, and we start thinking, well, yeah, but I know better. I don't need to talk to anybody about that. You do, absolutely. Because it'll my mind says this will be great, everything will be fine, and I'm going to go make this amend. And the truth is, you can stir up a big old hornet's nest out there if you're not careful by making... We've got some folks out there we call professional amends makers. They're feeling a little down, and so they're going to go make amends for shit that they didn't even do, just so they can feel better about themselves. I tell you, you can hurt some people that way. There's a guy in my sponsorship, a guy named Paul Martin. He wrote a bunch of articles in the ages ago. He wrote 19 articles for the Grapevine, and some of the stuff he talks about, he labels them activity addicts. They're just so busy. They're not doing anything, but they're really busy. Yeah. Stirring up a bunch of crap they don't need to be stirring up. Injure them or others. It's what we're worried about. You are not others. I'm sorry to break that to you. But there are some people like that are others. So we got to be we got to be kind of careful what we're doing. One of the biggest mistakes I'm watching out there today, and I want to give you some examples. Watching these little knuckleheads make these amends, and treatment centers started this stuff years ago. I don't know where it came from. It didn't come from AA, this script stuff. If you're going to go make an amend to, who we messed around, Eddie? Walmart. Let's say we stole a TV from Walmart. I don't know. It seems to be the thing to do. I bet you I've sponsored 20 men that have stolen TVs from Walmart. I don't have, but you want to go to Walmart. You want to tell them a little bit. You want to walk in and just explain to them. I'm in recovery now. I'm trying to clean up my stupid act, and I took a TV and I need to try to make it right. Y'all follow? Well, if you get the wrong manager, they'll just freak out because they don't know what to do. It's a paperwork nightmare. My experience is they'll just say, "Oh shit, well, go away." And you go, "Phew, okay, let's go. That went well. Let's go. Let's make some more amends." I don't, yeah. You got to do something like that, okay? And that's why you say you take you a little note in there if you want to. And this is what I'm making amends for, and all that. I understand that. If you go to your mother to make amends, I've literally had people sit down there and do that, and they wanted to make amends to me. "Hi, my name is Eddie, and I'm a recovering alcoholic, loser. And I'm trying to stay sober today, so I need to make this amend to you." Oh, how disingenuous does that sound? Y'all follow? What's wrong with looking the lady in the face, the guy in the face, and say, "You know what, buddy? I was wrong. I screwed you over, and I need to try to clean it up." What's wrong? That's got some teeth in it. Y'all, don't read from a stupid script. It is stupid. I take these notes, guys, and I read them in the car. Okay, I owe this guy $200, and I need to make amends for calling him a stupid pee-pee head. Okay. I got those two things. That's right. I leave this here, and I go in there, and I find the guy and sit down with him, and I go. Make sense? Clean it up that way. Mark it off. Go to the next one. Mark it off. Go to the next one. It happens pretty fast, folks. I guarantee you can knock out a whole bunch of these amends really, really fast if you can get organized. If you can get somebody to help you. Guys, I've sponsored a guy that used to belong to a Russian mafia. How do you make amends to an apartment complex that you burnt to the ground? I mean, you're worried about the TV in Walmart? I mean, come on, suck it up. It's just, there's lots of ways to make amends, folks. I sponsored a guy one time that shoved his wife around a bunch. He was just nuts and treated her with a lot of disrespect and was real physical with her. There was a restraining order against him. He got sober and he was staying sober and he was trying to do the right thing. He needed to make amends to her. She wouldn't have it. "You stay away from me. I don't ever want to see you again." In order to not go to jail, he had to steer clear of her. And I had him write a little letter explaining what he was trying to do. Not an email, a letter. Email's too easy to delete without even reading it. I sent a little letter saying what he was trying to accomplish and that he was going to donate some time and money to the women's shelter up in Dallas. And I said, "Here's the deal. You're going to have to continue to do this. This is not a $50 donation to the women's shelter. You're going to have to go see what you can do to be helpful to these people." He says, "I'm absolutely willing to do that." And this guy happened to be an air conditioning guy. And guess what they need a lot of in Dallas, Texas, at this women's shelter. And he's an AC guy, and he was on call for them forever, doing service calls for this place. And in fact, I talked to the owner of that place ages ago. She said he still checks in with us every once in a while and checks on the AC. And this guy's doing what he was supposed to be doing. Was it as perfect as cleaning it up directly with his wife? Did it still accomplish the same thing here? Damn straight. Absolutely. Would I like to see you? People say, "Well, if I do this amend, I'm going to end up going to jail." I don't want you to go to jail, but I'd rather see you go to jail than to be a prisoner for the rest of your life. I sponsor guys. Listen, I sponsor a lot of guys. I don't sponsor as many guys just coming straight in off the street. I sponsor guys that have been sober a long period of time, needing somebody to do the work with. It's amazing to me how many of these guys I talk to, and they have dozens of these amends that they just flat haven't done. And every time the phone rings, they jump. And every time a cop gets behind them, they panic. Y'all follow? You can't do that. I had an amend with a business partner in Kerrville. I had a catering company with this guy, and one night late, I decided to go back to Houston and kind of left him holding the everything. And we had a few conversations in the years that passed, but they weren't. I mean, it was bad. But I'm never going to see this guy because he's living back in the hill country, and I live in Dallas now. So that's I would make amends if I could, And then I got married to a girl that lived back in that town, and so I was going to live in that town. So the first thing I had to do when I got back to town was clean up my stuff with this guy. And I called him and asked him if I could have an appointment with him. And I talked to his secretary, and she set it up. And I walked in. He was sitting at a desk like this, just like Chris is sitting right there. And I walked in. Hi. Hey, listen, I need to make an amends to you. If you got a minute? And I told him it's the same kind of stuff. I finally got sober, and I need to clean this crap up. And it's been on my head. It's been on my mind. And I know there may be some money I owe you. I don't know. I think we're cool there, but it was disrespectful of me of doing what I was doing. And he said, it was. I said, what can I do to make it right? He said, you can get your skinny little butt out of my office. And if you see me on the street, you better be walking on the other side. Ooh, well, that went well. Okay. I walked out, and that's the way okay. Went to the next one. 2 months later, this guy gets me on the phone. This is before caller ID, guys. This is all you know. You know who developed caller ID? It was crackheads. That's right. That's a little known fact. I just thought I would throw that out there too. He said, yeah. But I recognize this guy's voice, and he said, are you still taking the A&A classes? I said, yes, I am. He said, do you remember my son? I said, which one? He had 3. And it got quiet on the phone. And he's crying. And his son got all tangled up. He said, do you think maybe you could talk to him? Absolutely. Snagged his butt, took him to a meeting. Y'all follow? He stayed sober a while. I don't know where he is now. But he stayed sober for a while. It's beside the point. The point was, do you think for a second that this guy would have ever called me had I not done what I was supposed to do? The amend that you think is not going to go well, it's not up to you to judge. Your job is to do it. And then let's see what God does with that amend. It's happened over and over and over, folks. I don't want you to miss it. Again, the closer we are at getting this stuff cleaned up in that universe, the more stuff starts coming down and touching us. It took me 13 years to make amends to my first wife. And this wasn't because I wasn't trying. Y'all follow it? But at the end, it was like she made it perfectly clear she didn't want to talk to me ever. And I was talking with Mark in a little conference deal, a little talk in Houston, Texas. And I was at the Motel 6 on NASA 1. And I remember she was in Houston. I called her up on the phone. Nothing but the best for Chris Raymer. I'm in NASA Motel 6. And I called her brother, and he says, God, you just won't give up. And I said, nah, just give. Anyway. He said, I'm going to give her the message, but buddy, I doubt very seriously if she'll talk to you. Anyway, I got back from the talk, and I came in, and the light was blinking, and it was a message, and she was there. She was out with the girls, and I called her, and she said, if you'll stay over, I'll hear your stupid amends. And I said, well, rock on. And I canceled a flight the next day and moved it and went and saw her at the restaurant. And I got to tell you guys, it's like a lot of y'all have had the same experience. I'm sitting there and I got my little card and I set it down. I said, well, okay, this is what I got to do, man. And I explained to her, and I told her I was sorry that I treated her the way I treated her in that marriage. It was a short marriage, a couple of years, the only time we were together. And I tried to clean it up. And she looked at me and she says, I know exactly what you're doing, and I absolutely appreciate the effort it took to do this. And I thought, yeah, well, And I can still get home for, HBO here. But and she said, but you don't have a clue what you did to me. Oh. And she told me. And I didn't know. And I'm crying and she's crying and the waiter's freaking out. Are you okay? Are you okay? No, get away. Just... Sometimes there's better places, but it was a good place for us to make amends. It was right there in that open. Guys, we went back over to her house and she gave me some stuff she'd been holding hostage, and I got to hug her neck, and we're not friends. We don't, on Facebook and stuff, but I cleaned up the wreckage of a whole bunch of years by dealing with it. It took a lot of courage on both parts. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. This ain't for wimps. There's a lot of people out there in AA talk. I was in a meeting just the other day and listened to a guy say, well, you don't need to worry so much about these amends. I mean, hell, the credit card company doesn't need your money. Okay, you talk to enough people in Alcoholics Anonymous and they will let you off all of this work. I'm just saying, again, I go back to how free do you want to be? I had a brother-in-law that I stole he gave me a bow to sell for him, a archery guy, and he gave me a bow, and I sold it and bought dope with it. I think, if I remember, I don't even remember how much I sold it for. But when I got sober in '87, I made amends to him. I said, buddy, I'm sorry I took that money from that bow. And he says, oh, don't worry about it. He says, you're all right. Just stay sober. But every time we'd go over to his house, I'd be go outside to smoke a cigar, and he'd be out there smoking a cigarette, and he'd put his cigarette out and he'd go back inside. He'd just talk real quick. Yeah, I'm about done. Well, I'll see you later. Bye. And it was obvious this guy didn't want anything to do with me. Y'all follow? When Patty and I got married up in Dallas, he was invited to the wedding, and after we got married, I'd gone to the Bass Pro Shop or something, got a gift certificate, stuck it in my pocket. I think the bow was $200. I don't remember, and that was nothing for me at the time. I had plenty of money. I said, okay. And I went out there to smoke a cigarette, and she put his, just like always, I said, buddy, just give me 2 minutes. And I said, buddy, I got to tell you, I know that there's been some tension for us. I tried to make this amend before, and you said you were cool. You're not cool. And I took this out, and I said, buddy, I got this here, and I just a token. I'm so sorry that we've had this stuff in between us. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're right. I have not liked you worth a poot for what you did. And took the gift certificate. And he hugged my neck, and we get to go fishing all the time. Y'all follow? Guys, this is not about saying I'm sorry. This is about cleaning up the wreckage so that we can be free, so that we can go back out there in the world and kick some butt. But I'm going to say this and let my friend take over. I hate to say it because I know some of you will get twisted around it, but I think some of this is spiritual warfare. I think there's a piece of us that just thinks it's just okay, and Bill Wilson talks endlessly about it in those pages. It's okay. I'm not drinking today, so everything's okay. But I think the spiritual warfare is I don't need to clean up all that. All I got to do is continue to stay sober and everything's all right. But it's all the harm and stuff that I have done, the wreckage out there. If I will talk to some cool, responsible members of Alcoholics Anonymous and I can get some input about some of this, I don't think there's an amend out there, including to dead people, that you can't make. And then you can get free of all this stuff that's just weighting you down. I know people that have to be medicated because of the guilt and shame they're dealing with. They don't have to deal with. We just have to face this stuff, walk through the fire, get to the other side. And I'm going to say it again. It takes all kinds of courage to do this. But you're not by yourself. We're here. God's here. And one little deal at a time. One little, you'll get this stuff knocked out and you'll get to the other side. And then God can use you to help the next guy to do the same thing. We cease being victims, folks. And it's the absolute coolest. Thanks. We got that. Ben Jerry.
Thank God.
He's so good.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of y'all made it back. That's cool.
That is cool.
I'm Jerry Green. I'm very grateful, recovered alcoholic. I'm going to talk a little bit about step 10. You know, step 10 is is very, very important to me. All the steps are important, but my experience is that about 90% of my life is lived in step 10. You know, I do my stuff in the morning, part of my 11th step stuff. I go through my day. I do my stuff in the evening. I go to a few meetings, you know. I work with some guys. But day by day, minute by minute, I have to live in step 10. It's so important. And one thing important, I want to clear this up right away, is I've had people tell me, well, if I can get through this 9th step and get to the 10th step, then all this is going to be better. It's not what the book says. You know, the book says this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So when I go out and make that first 9th step amend, I need to be living in step 10. It says we've entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understandingness and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. How long do I have to do step 10? It should continue for our lifetime. I have to do this from now on. But after I do it for a while, I realize that really means I get to do this from now on. Because those feelings, you know, long before people relapse and pick up, long before that starts coming back those old feelings, those old behaviors. It's uncomfortable. You know, it doesn't feel good anymore. Once you've done this deal, been through these first 9 steps and got this connection with God, those old behaviors and those old thought patterns aren't comfortable. You know, and the way I keep those away is I do this step 10. I do it every day. I do it all day long. The days I do it all day long are awesome days. Now, I can get busy, and I can get to thinking I'm all that in a bag of chips, and I can get doing my stuff at work because I'm a big and important person, and I can do all that, and before you know it, my brain's going crazy, and I'm listening to it again. You know, I have to bring myself back. My first sponsor told me that spiritual contains a word. The word ritual is in front of the word spiritual. And my experience is that any time I can tie a physical act to doing this stuff and remember to do it, almost make a little ritual out of it, the better off I am. When I first started in this, I would set timers on my phone every hour to stop and say, "Thy will be done." You know, things like that. I still do stuff like that from time to time. But the key is doing it. I can read about it. I can know it. I can have heard it a million times, but if I'm not doing it, nothing happens. This is all about action. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. That's the 4 big ones. Every one of those is children of the ego. You know, our ego regrows constantly. I have to watch for that stuff. It says when these crop up, doesn't say if they crop up, it says when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. That's a prayer. And you can say it right in your office talking to somebody, or you can say it driving down the road. You can say it in your brain. The important deal is that I do it. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. Clean that stuff up every day. If I'm cleaning that stuff up every day and I'm making those amends to people if I've harmed them and I'm doing that, let me give you an example. And Don Major says this from the podium, but I've actually experienced this. When I first got sober and I had my business and everything, there's a lot of times that you promise customers you're going to do something and you get busy and you forget. And about 2 weeks later, the customer calls you up and says, "Hey, you were supposed to take care of this or that." And the first words out of my mouth were always, "You mean my secretary didn't do that? You mean my partner didn't do that?" You call up about 3 of them big shots with them oil companies, grown men just like you call them back up and say, "Hey, I'm sorry I lied to you. I forgot that." You'll quit doing that crap. It's not comfortable. But you take those actions and things get better. I have to do this stuff. But here's what a lot of times we forget. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Guys, when I'm having a tough time, when things are going crazy, turning inward and doing another friggin' inventory is not the answer for me. And I used to think it was. Oh, there's something inside of me I got to get right. Something inside of me. No, when I'm having troubles and I'm having things go wrong and things are falling around all about me, turning outside and trying to help somebody else is what fixes it. How can I help somebody else? How can I be helpful? It's the second I turn my thought that way, I forget all that stuff that my brain's been telling me. My brain's a very dangerous place to be. I wouldn't even let y'all look at it for a second if you could. The answer for me is never to turn inward. The answer is to turn outward. You know, I can't resolve this by writing it down. I can't resolve this by doing any of those things that I used to think would help. I have to resolve these things by just turning outside of myself, trying to help somebody else. It's just that simple. Now, this next paragraph's kind of rough. It says, we've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. Oh, God, how we love to fight, us alcoholics, right? Oh, we can fight with anybody. Judgmental. By God, they're right. We fight over the program. We fight over the book. We fight over the traditions. We don't even have tradition meetings at our group because tradition meetings always seem like they always blow into something big, you know. We do that sponsor to sponsee, teach those traditions. We don't teach them in our group. This says, I've ceased fighting anything or anyone, for by this time sanity will have returned. Remember in that second step where it said a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity? By the 10th step, that sanity should have returned. And a lot of the ways it returns the first time, the first thing that returns is that sanity around alcohol, because that obsession's gone, and I'm not doing the most insane act I'll ever do, stone cold sober, which is putting another drink in me. That returns. But guys, I promise you, if you work this 10th and 11th step and you work it every day, all kinds of sanity is going to return. And for me, some of that sanity was brand new. I never had it, you know? What I got here and what Chris keeps alluding to and everything is I've got power now. I've got the Creator's power now. I've got that power in my life. Power to manage my life. Power to manage my finances. Power to manage the stuff that needs to be managed. But I don't do it. I let God do it. There's a huge difference in that. Sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. I don't share this with people very often, but I'm going to say it today. At about 6 months into this deal, I was really busy at work and all that stuff, and I first thing that fell off was I quit doing some prayers and stuff, and then I didn't talk to my sponsor. And then I left on this business trip to Dallas. And it had been 3 or 4 days since I'd taken any actions. I went, my business deal didn't go too good. It made me mad. I turned in a liquor store. I bought a bottle of vodka. Smirnoff Silver, that was my favorite. I bought a bottle of vodka, and I argued with myself all the way back to my hotel. I can't drink this. I'm going to drink this. I can't drink this. I'm going to drink this. And I took that bottle, and the last thing I did before I got out of my truck, I said, God, you're going to have to stop me. And I'm 6 months sober. I've got some sponsees and everything. And I walked to the corner of that motel with that bottle, and I don't know what. I know what. I know it was the power of God. For some reason, I poured that bottle out, and I ran upstairs, called my sponsor. He got me, talked to me. I went to a meeting. I tried to help some people. And since then, I've never spent 3 or 4 days not taking these actions. That was the scariest things in my sobriety that's ever happened, but it was probably the most beneficial, because I know standing right here today, if I spend 3 or 4 days not doing this deal, I'll be drunker than Cooter Brown. And more importantly than that is I won't be able to help anybody. Remember what I said a while ago? I'm not getting sober. I'm not getting sober so I can be happy. I'm getting sober so I can go out and help God's kids. There's a lot of people out there that God's got left for me to help, and I can't do that drunk. So this 10th step's critically important to me. It says, we'll seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame, react sanely and normally. We'll find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. We call that recovered, guys. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. This is our experience. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Guys, this is not about waking up every day for the rest of your life and fighting this damn disease. It's not about waking up and saying, I'm not going to drink today. It's not even about, I don't even pray, God keep me sober today. He's done that. He's took the obsession away. I hear people say, well, I ask God to keep me sober every day and thank Him at night. And if you do that, rock on. I don't need to do that. I don't have to do that. I wake up and I get connected to God, and whether I'm going to stay sober or not is not a question. The question is, at the very start of the day, am I going to do this deal today, or am I going to try to run the show? Am I going to take these actions that I'm required to take, or am I not? Doesn't take long to making that wrong decision before I'll be right back in the thick of it. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. I didn't know what laurels were, so I looked it up. Found out their accomplishments. Well, that's a real easy one for me to understand. I don't have any laurels. I don't have any accomplishments. Everything that's happened to me is because of God. I can't rest on that. I can't live off the spiritual experience I had last week or last month. I have spiritual experiences every day. Every day I try to share the message with somebody, it's a spiritual experience. Every day I get on my knees in the morning, it's a spiritual experience, because that is not my nature, guys. That is not who I am. That's a spiritual experience. I got to keep having them. We are not cured of alcoholism. Big thing here, guys. Being cured and being recovered are two totally different things. If we could cure you of alcoholism, we'd go, you're cured. Now, go home. But that's not how it works. We're not cured, but we are recovered. What we have is a daily reprieve, and how they took this daily reprieve and turned it into staying sober one stupid day at a time, I'll never understand. The reason I have a daily reprieve and the reason I live one day at a time is because I hadn't ever seen the sun come up twice yet. You know? My life's been changed forever by this power that's inside of me, and as long as I take these actions, it stays that way. But every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. And I'm like, oh, another gray spot. How in the hell am I supposed to carry the vision of God's will into all my activities? Luckily, he put another sentence there. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. Man, the days I can remember to do that, just a few times a day, the days I can remember to say that and get brought back to that center point are wonderful days. And here's some good news. Everybody told you that alcoholics don't have no willpower. That's bullshit. You get an alcoholic that needs some more booze at 5 till 9 and 15 miles from the liquor store and tell me he ain't got no willpower. Buddy, I've been there. We got willpower. Now we're fixing to get to use it. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. So I use my will to do these actions. And when I do these actions, I end up living in God's will. That's so cool. You know, that's exactly how it works. So I can use my will for something. To take the actions whether I feel like it or not. To take the actions whether I think it'll work or not. To take the actions regardless of what my brain's telling me. I said a while ago, for 51 years I woke up and I lived my life based on feelings, how I felt. Today I wake up and I live my life based on principles. There's a whole world of difference. Doing the right thing whether I want to do it or not. Sometimes I don't. A lot of times I don't. Guys, there's about 30% of the mornings when I roll out of that bed that I don't want to get on my knees and talk to God. I don't want to go out there and spend a little time on my porch with Him. I'm much too important. I told you that before. I'm much too busy. I don't want to do that. And I don't think it's going to work that day. And I wake up in fear and stuff at work ain't going right and everything's screwed up. But I've learned that if I do it anyway, everything's fine. It's when I don't do it. And it's not based on feelings. I love the way old Don Major put it. He said, I can wake up and just feel like I'm at one with God. Just we're out there floating on the ethers. We're just one, me and God. You know? And he said, I can go to my big important job and that old phone can ring. And he said, and I know it's old Joe, and Joe wants to talk about the girl again. And I've already talked to Joe about the girl and I don't want to answer the phone, but I have much too much compassion. I love old Joe, but I'll just talk to him later. My job's more important. And there's an old meeting over there across town at noon, and man, I'm just too busy to go to that. He said, that day I can get drunker than Cooter Brown. He said, but I can wake up feeling like crap, not wanting to do this, and hit my knees anyway. That phone can ring at the office, and I'm much too busy to mess with it, but I do it anyway. And then I can go over there to that old noon meeting where I can't hear nothing. I've heard all their stories a million times. He said, but I can do it that anyway. And that day, I'm absolutely guaranteed to have that daily reprieve. That day, I'm absolutely guaranteed. And that's exactly my story, and that's exactly my experience. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we've become God-conscious. We must develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. You do this for a while, and it does start. You do start to get that sixth sense. You know immediately of what you're fixing to do, if it's the right or wrong thing. And when you do the wrong thing, you're very aware of it. That comes from doing this stuff over and over and over. And then we get into step 11, and now I have a little bit different take on step 11, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. It says, step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. So the suggestions he's fixing to give us are about prayer and meditation. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, pack into the stream of life? Guys, that's a prayer. He just got through saying that he was going to be very specific about prayer and meditation. You know, I used to try to do that evening review, which is actually in the 11th step, not the 10th step, according to the big book. But I used to try to do that evening review, and I'd say, where was I dishonest today? And a lot of times there'd be so much dishonesty that I couldn't even pinpoint it all. And sometimes I'd tell myself I wasn't dishonest that day at all, and I realized what I was doing wrong. This isn't where I ask myself these questions. This is where I ask God these questions. I go to Him in prayer, and I ask Him about this stuff. And then I try to listen. After making It says, but we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. Ego's a two-sided coin, guys. Pride and arrogance is on one side. We're all familiar with that. But the other side of that is self-pity and remorse. People don't usually think of ego that way, but it is, because either way, I'm thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about somebody else, you know? After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. That's a prayer. Now, this is the part I love, because sometimes I really suck at that nighttime part, but don't tell anybody. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. I was taught that I need to do that prayer the minute my eyes open. I was taught that I have plenty of time between getting out of bed and going to pee and getting back to bed to ruin my whole life. So I do that prayer when my eyes fly open these days. It took some training, but I do it. It takes some discipline, but I let God discipline me in the way we described here. I do that prayer. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. So I do that little prayer, you know. I get up and I take care of business. I put on a pot of coffee. I get down on my knees and I do the 3rd step prayer. I do the 7th step prayer. I do some other things. And then I go outside and I try to spend a little time with God. And here's how it goes. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for an inspiration and intuitive thought or decision. We relax and take it easy. I suck at the relaxing and taking it easy part. God, give me an answer. Oh, gotta go, run, you know. We don't struggle. You know, when I used to do my meditation, guys, I'd struggle with it really, really, really bad. I thought you were supposed to clear your mind. I thought you were supposed to clear your mind. If any thought came into your mind, it was a bad thing, and I was trying to control my mind and keep my mind clear, and I cannot do that. If you can, I'm proud for you. Get with me after and you can tell me how to do it, but I can't do that. I get quiet. Thoughts come into my mind and drift out of my mind, but I try to remember that center of that is God, you know? And I used to think, well, if work comes to my mind, that's bad. Shouldn't be thinking about work. You know what? I had this happen to me about 3 months ago. There was two or three little problems at work which were just driving me crazy that I couldn't figure out. And I was out there trying to do my morning meditation, and boom, 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 the answers to all 3 of those popped in my brain. I went to work and did it, and it all worked out perfect. Guess what? That was God. It's not my job to judge what God's telling me. A lot of the times I'm convinced today that the most beautiful conversations I've had with God I wasn't even aware of. This is on a deeper level. A lot of times, guys, it's spirit to spirit, and I'm not even aware that anything happened. It's not about being aware that anything happens. It's not about trying to be so eloquent with my prayers that I change God's mind. It's about having the humility. It's about having the willingness to take the actions I'm supposed to take and then move on. God will take care of the rest. I don't have to. That's what this freedom is. This freedom is so awesome, man. You quit running the universe and you're free. You just start trying to go with the flow and you're free. Man, all that stuff leaves your mind and you don't have to focus on all that anymore. Because guess what? I couldn't fix it anyway. You know? It's powerful. It's incredibly powerful. As we go through the day, we pause. My old first sponsor used to call that the pause button. I suck at pausing too, guys. I really do. I'm an extreme example of progress, not perfection, let me tell you. We pause when agitated or doubtful. We ask for the right thought or action. I do that a lot more than I used to. And when I do that, it works out a lot better. We constantly remind ourselves we're no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. Man, I didn't like that when I first read it because I like excitement. Don't y'all like excitement? But see, this ain't talking about being happy. This ain't talking about being joyous. This is talking about that raw nerve edge excitement that we get into, and we put having that excitement before anything else. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. My favorite sentence in the book, again, it works, it really does. Guys, when you try to run the whole show and the whole universe and stuff, you get tired. You get wore out. You go home just bone dead, mentally just beat down, tired. You know, and I don't have to do that today, not nearly as often. We alcoholics are undisciplined. Lord, I know that's true with me. So we let God discipline us in the way we've just outlined. Guys, this doesn't take a ton of time every day. It's about being awake. It's about being aware. You know, the book says the consciousness of our belief is sure to come to us. It doesn't say our belief is sure to come to us. It's because deep down inside of every man, woman, and child, there's a fundamental idea of God. It says the consciousness of that's going to come. And when we start becoming conscious, we start becoming awake, we have a spiritual awakening, we start becoming aware, everything changes. My job is not to go back to sleep. The way I don't go back to sleep is I take these actions. If I don't take these actions, I'll go back to sleep. I promise you, when I look back on my life, I had hundreds of spiritual experiences before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, but I slept through them. That's what we do. God's still working. I'd be dead years and years and years ago if God hadn't seen fit to keep me alive for some reason. God worked in my life in ways that I never could understand. Today I see that. Today I'm aware of that. It's about that fourth dimension. It's about being awake, and it's about being inspired by God. And there's nothing like it in the world. There's absolutely nothing like it in the world. This goes so far past staying dry. This goes so far past not drinking. It ain't got anything to do with it. The bottles were a symbol. This has got to do with doing this work and having the Creator of the universe change your life forever. This is about going out and living a kick-ass life, being happy, joyous, and free, and helping people. And it absolutely comes to pass every time if I just take the actions and keep taking the actions. That's all I got. Thanks.